Creo Parametric 11.0 now supports using the offset command for curves with edge chain references. This ends up saving you an additional step of having to create a curve chain from edges before you can use the offset command. In order to explain this, it helps if I show this in Creo Parametric 10 first so you can see how that and previous versions of the software worked. Here I have a part model. Let me rotate this, and I have a bunch of edges from a surface that I want to offset for some additional modeling. So I can start off by selecting this edge over here. I will hold down the Shift key in order to get the surface loop. And when I do that, the offset command is grayed out. I can't use the offset command right now. In order to be able to offset those different edges, I have to click on the copy command and then paste. I will do an exact paste of it and then hit the check mark. And so now I have a copy created. It is still selected. The offset command is now available to me. I can click on offset and it automatically changes the type to curve. Let me change it to a value that we can see. You can grab the drag handle, or you can double click on the dimension and type in the number that you want to use. I am happy with that, so I will hit the middle mouse button and then deselect. And you can see that the offset is created, and here is the copy. So Creo 10 and earlier, it's a two-step process. Let me show you another example of this. This time I will go directly to the offset command and then choose the curve as what I want to create. And if we take a look down at the lower right-hand corner of the interface, well, my choices are essentially that I can select a curve or an intent datum curve. But let me go about selecting some different edges that I might want. Oh, actually, I won't be able to select the edges. If I start putting my mouse over here, it's not going to work. Once again, in Creo 10 and earlier, I need to do a copy and paste. So for example, I will select this edge. Let me hold down the Shift key and move over this one and tap right until I get the tangent chain. And then, like before, copy, paste, hit the check mark to get an exact copy. And now with the curve still selected, I can use the offset command and I can drag it along that edge. Let me grab the right drag handle and I'll grab it here. And oh, that's good. I wanted a value of exactly 8. So I will hit the middle mouse button. Now you can see that I have offset those different edges by creating an intermediate curve first. All right, now let's jump over to Creo 11 and see how you can do it today. Okay, same part model as before, but I am in Creo 11 and let me navigate over to this same edge. I will hold down the Shift key to get the surface loop. And now from the mini toolbar, here is the offset command. I can just click on it and then I can grab my drag handle and drag it the distance that I want. Let me double click on the dimension to change the value and then middle mouse click. And I'm done. No more intermediate step of creating that copy of the edges first. And so now let's take a look at clicking on the offset command first. I'll go to the offset command and change the type to chain. Now let's take a look at the selection filter. Before you just had the curve option, and I believe it was intent datum curve, but now we also have the option to select edges, including edge chains, and something called an intent chain. So let me just show the same one as before, like I previously did. Let me select, say, this edge over here, and then hold the Shift key, tap right to get the tangent chain, and then let me zoom in to find the drag handle if I want to drag it manually. And let's double change this to a value of 8, and then zoom out so you can see it. Middle mouse button to complete the feature. Let me deselect everything. So again, I was able to create the offset without that intermediate copy beforehand. And so there's that other option in there for an intent chain. Later on, at some point, I will go back and show you intent references, this was something that was added around Pro Engineer 2001. It was intended to make placing user-defined features easier later on, but it never really took off, and some of the other different enhancements over the years made it irrelevant. But I do want to show you that you can use what are called intent chains along with this offset functionality. Let me jump over to a different part model in order to show that. Okay, so I've got this part model over here. You are probably aware that you can select your references. If I take a look in the lower right-hand corner, by default, we have the geometry filter. If I move my mouse over the model, I've got different edges that I can pick on. But if I tap the right mouse button, well, that's something called query select, and I can actually query to what are called the intent edges of a feature. In other words, the edges that are associated with that feature. But in addition to the intent edges that Creo automatically suggests to you, you can manually create what are called your own intent chains or intent references. There are a whole bunch of different types of them. But let's say that I'm going to be working a lot with a set of edges over here, and I want to set up a predefined intent chain of those. To do that, I can go to the Datum drop-down menu. Here is the reference command, and it opens up this Datum Reference dialog box. From the drop-down list, you can see that there are about 7 different kinds of intent references that you can create, even intent axes, intent curves, intent surfaces, but the default is an intent chain. And you do have the ability to give a name to this intent chain. That was part of that UDF placement functionality that was added almost 25 years ago. But let me type in a name over here, and I'll just call this my lower boundary for the name of the feature. And now I will select the edges that I want to be part of this. And I'll just select about 6 different edges. Let me use the shift key to grab that, and then this one over here. And then let me rotate the model and get the other additional edges that I want in here. You hold shift and shift. And so I've selected this one by one chain of different edges. I can click on the OK button, and I've essentially created my own intent chain that I can use later on. If I go to my model tree and scroll all the way down here, there you can see the reference feature that I have created. So I can use that as an input to the offset command now. So for example, if I go to the offset command, let's change the type to chain, and just make it a little easier on myself to select, I will go to the selection filter, change to intent chain, and hey, there is that intent chain that I just set up. I can click on it. Let me double click on the dimension. It's a big model, so let me just manually type in the number that I want to use. 120 is good. Hit the middle mouse button. And there we go. There I have my offset curves. So again, Creo Parametric 11.0, they've expanded the functionality when you're using the offset command for creating new curves to include selecting edges, edge chains, and intent chains.